Okay.
Is it going?
It'll give us a little countdown here. Okay.
Are we
Live.
going?
Yep.
Live?
Mhm.
Okay.
Turn my phone off here.
Welcome, welcome. Hope everyone's had a great Sunday.
Somehow I think you're always way too excited to do this.
Maybe nervous, probably.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, for those of you who continue to follow and watch us, we thank you for that. It was really great to be with Josh and Shannon last week and have them in Rapid City for a week. We enjoyed our time with them and be able to just share that part of the journey with us. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about anger as one of the stages of grief. Last week we talked about 5 generally recognized stages of grief, ranging from depression, anger/blame, acceptance, bargaining, and what was the other one talked about? Remember? The other one was denial. And denial and isolation. So tonight, and not that Stacy and I are the experts at anger or anything like that, and not that that's been... Anyways, we're just going to talk about from our perspective how we did experience that in our unique ways. And I'd say probably an interesting part for us is that anger in some ways came much further, much delayed, where maybe we would have anticipated or suspected it. For me, it was a complete surprise at a later time, which I'll share a little bit tonight. And Stacy will share a little bit of hers as well. So Stacy, why don't you go ahead and start us off with your...
Okay. So my story starts in the hospital. After my accident, I had broken some bones, and I had hit my head really hard, and so I was having a hard time moving. It made me really dizzy. And so they asked if I wanted a psychiatrist to come in and talk to me, and I said, yeah, that would be great. And so he came in and he talked to me, and he had some really good advice and things like that. But the one thing that stuck out to me was one of the phases you're going to feel is anger. And when he said that, I was like, oh, like I was in shock at this point. So I hadn't felt anger yet, and I don't like feeling anger. And so it was something that I was afraid to feel that. And and as I went through my grief process, it was just mostly sadness, and there just this hurt. Like that's what I felt. That was so intense, and I kept kind of checking, like, am I angry? And I would think to myself, no, I'm not angry. I'm just really hurt, and I wasn't getting mad at God. I had accepted, or I felt strongly in my heart, and I knew that it was her time to go. And then we started a foundation in her honor, and wanted to continue her kindness legacy. And so that first year, I was so involved with that, and so supported by so many people with that it distracted me partly. I still felt a lot of hurt and things like that, but it helped.
And the time passed.
Yes, the time
quickly.
passed quickly, and I was so involved with it that it helped my journey that first year. And then it was probably about a little over a year, and wow, it hit hard. And okay, go ahead.
Well, just saying, share with them a little bit one of the reasons why it hit, or what was kind of the tip, kind of got that going for you with the foundation and some of the, the direction that...
Oh.
Because that seems to be kind of what really started letting that build.
Maybe, yeah. So as we had worked on the foundation, if anyone's ever done that, it's a hard thing. And, usually with foundations, your child dies of cancer, and so you have a foundation that raises money for cancer. Well, we have a foundation that is all about doing good and sharing good. And I had really felt inspired to go the direction. One of the ways we could spread good was to raise awareness for digital addictions in teens and youth. And that was just something that I woke up one night and felt really good about. And so we started a builders club in our middle school, which is youth planning their own service projects and completing and doing them. And so this was a way that they could get off their phones and do good, because as was working on this foundation, doing the good and spreading the good was helping me so much. And so I knew that if these youth could get off their phones and look outward and do good, that they could be helped too in whatever they're going through. And so we did this, and at that point, that was our direction. And as we met as a group afterwards, there was kind of just this, I guess,
Some negative
feedback, but I wanted it. I told them, I said, be open. I want to hear all of your comments, and I'm so glad that they were open to me. But that really, it hurt me, and
it left you totally deflated.
Yeah, it left me deflated. But I was so grateful for their input and everything. But that's just like everything. You go for it. I didn't know what I was doing, and so we just kind of went with what I felt, and so that was really hard. And then I probably kept it in and said I'm okay and things like that. But and then it really, the anger that she was gone really hit, and I have it in my journal here. The last couple of weeks have been really hard. The hurt has come full force, like almost immobilizing me. I also felt anger, which I haven't really felt until now. I have questioned God, felt anger that Lily was taken so soon and so fast. Then that has left me with little motivation for Live Like Lily. It's like a pit in my stomach that makes me sick. I wonder to myself if the pain ever lessens. Not every day do I feel it, but more lately. Even though it has been testified that what has happened was meant to be, it felt like I felt like I just wanted to kick it all in the face. And then I said, thank goodness for conference, which is a meeting that's held in our church every 6 months, where the leaders talk to us about just gospel topics. And I said, many talks were written, it seemed, just for me. It has given me a sense of optimism, a get up and try again, a strength and testimony that God is still there after you get mad or drift off. I am drowning, and He is there with His hand outstretched to pull me out. He is the only way that I can feel peace and have joy in such a terrible loss. I have experienced this, I know this. He doesn't take it all away, because we are supposed to learn and grow and stretch through the pain. But He gives me little tender mercies, such as a message that someone has been touched by Live Like Lily's legacy. We just received a letter from a lady that received Lily's phone. When I opened the letter, there was an audible gasp and tears. What a precious gift. So
Lily was a tissue donor, and so
Yeah.
we received a letter from a lady that had received some of her donation.
And so, and I remember that this anger, that I'm already feeling that hurt, but then when anger enters in, it was like so much worse. It made the hurt and the anger together, just as I said, it almost immobilized me. It made me not really care about things I cared about before, and it made anything that maybe someone did that wasn't a big deal that wouldn't have been a big deal before the anger came, a huge deal. And I remember there was a time I went to an event and something happened and I had to leave because I just was overcome, and I bawled my eyes out on the trails, and I was crying to God, why? I'm already hurting because my daughter's gone. I feel so angry that she's gone because she lived such a good life and she could have done so much good and been such an amazing mom, such an amazing girl. She was a friend to everyone. I said, why? And I remember just screaming to God, now I feel this hurt from me, something someone did, even though they probably didn't do it intentionally. And I was just like, why am I heaped up? Why do I have to feel all of this? Because it was almost like someone was taking me and just like taking their shoe and grinding me into the ground. I just remember those days were hard. So hard. And I probably was not very nice to my husband, but he was really patient with me. And
well, I remember you saying too, like, why am I getting angry now? It's like over a year since this happened, and why am I getting angry now? And
yeah, and I knew, and before like I said, I was afraid of that phase because I didn't want to feel angry when I already felt hurt, because it just seemed like too much. And so before I had felt that actual anger, that phase of grief, I remember it'd be like, I'd try to like go there and like, oh, am I angry? It was a weird thing. But then I couldn't really go there. And so it was like, I learned like, you can't force these phases at all. Like, you can't force like, okay, now I'm going to feel this way. It just comes. And I like the way that it says there's waves. They come in waves, because they kind of just hit you, and you're not ready for them. You're never ready for them. But I feel like as I look back, and I didn't try to push the anger away, I just really was angry with the anger. I was angry that I had to feel angry when I was already hurting so bad, because anger made it worse. And so it was just a really hard time.
And you had already experienced, and you expressed it just a little bit in your journal, you already experienced an amazing amount of peace and amazing amount of knowledge about the experience. So feeling that anger in some ways probably didn't even make sense to you because of what you knew. That's
true. And then I wrote in my journal about 2 months later that President Nelson, our prophet of our church, had given all of the women a challenge to read the Book of Mormon by the end of the year. And he'd given it in October. I had just written in my journal about it later, but looking back, and I had just finished the Book of Mormon, so I was like, oh, I don't need to read it, I'm good. And then I really felt like I should, and so I really dived into it. I only had a couple months, and I'll read it here. I felt the Spirit more abundant in my life. The anger that hovered because of Lily's death dissipated, and that peace that only Heavenly Father can give entered once again into my life. I am so thankful for this wonderful challenge. It truly touched my heart. And I would say, yes, that's the major reason that I was able to have that anger dissipate eventually. And I know, like I said before, that Heavenly Father's not just gonna like take it away, because it's a phase of grief that you need to go through, even if it's scary, even if you hate it, even if you don't want to. It's something. And I feel like, and it's so interesting how as we go through these feelings that we know that are coming or that we're going through at the present time, even though it's so hard, as we realize how Heavenly Father's helping, as I've realized how Heavenly Father's helping me, and I see the everyday miracles, it heals. It's amazing. Like I said, that little letter that came when I was feeling angry, um, it helped. It was a little tender mercy. Heavenly Father's there. He's not going to take it all away, but He's going to give you little angels in your life to help ease it, and He's going to strengthen you so that you can bear those burdens. I know this because He has, and I know there's a lot going on in the world right now with rioting and COVID-19 and the loss of loved ones and being alone because people are sick in the hospital. So anger right now is pretty, well, it is a universal thing, but right now it just seems kind of in our faces. But I know through Heavenly Father that you can, and Jesus Christ, that you can, if you turn to Him or any holy upper power that you have, that He will help strengthen you. He won't take it away all at once, but He will help strengthen you. And also things that helped me, it was before I felt the anger, but I trained for a marathon. I never thought I would do that, but running, wow, that was really therapeutic for me, as it was just time for me to think and move my body, and I got into cake making too, and that really was therapeutic for me. So just finding ways to express yourself or things that you really like to do and really dive into those things, I think really help.
Well, Stacy will tell you, I probably, to a default, we ran that marathon together, and the year after Lily passed away, I started running quite a bit more, and I definitely have been changed dramatically by having a goal. Some people think of running and that's death. That's how I used to think of it as well. It was like the worst punishment anybody could ever inflict upon me. Anyways, but finding a goal, and finding something that I could do repeatedly that would consistently take me out of maybe the stressors of life and give me a safe place to clear my mind and to think and to exercise. Obviously does a lot of wonderful things for you in terms of your endorphins, your mental status. You're physically much more likely to be healthy. You're less likely to be depressed. I mean, there's a lot of very positive things from physical activity. But I've seen Stacy through her cake making have an awesome time as well. She's I don't know how many cakes you've made. You think it's been 100? Probably close to 100 cakes.
We don't need them all, though.
Yeah. But she makes those cakes for others. And that, making the cake is fun for her, and she gets the opportunity to exercise her creativity. But I'm confident that the process of serving somebody through that cake making there's a magic to that.
There is.
That is also there. So I wanted to share a unique experience. When Lily passed away, I have not had any anger per se in my part of grieving until Layla passed away. A little context, it seems like since I was a young boy, death has always surrounded me. When I was in 7th grade or 6th grade, my little sister was diagnosed with leukemia, and death, she didn't die, but I thought she was going to die all the time. The next year, my grandpa was diagnosed with cancer. He died in a very short period of time. He was one of my best friends. That broke my heart and killed me. Just was really tough on me as a early teenager. The next year, one of my friends tried to commit suicide and shot his face off with a shotgun. He didn't die, but that was really disturbing to me. And there were kids around at that time who, a number of kids in our community committed suicide. And so death was on my mind a lot. Then when I was in 9th grade, my oldest brother was in a car accident and was killed. And that rocked my world a lot, a really, really, really big deal. So through my formative years, death was always on my mind. That was part of my growing up, is having to face and question with death. Thankfully, through those years, I have come to have an absolute conviction that life does exist after we die, and that we carry on, and that has been a huge blessing for me as a parent losing a child. So I think that some of that anger may have been quelled a little bit by that. But when Layla was found in the pool, we were called, everybody started fasting, the Worldwide Unified Group, thousands of people were fasting. I had in my heart to pray that Layla would be able to make it, to be able to be healed like so many people were. And I didn't necessarily have any assurance, so it's not like I felt like she was going to make it, but I just really, it was the most sincere and loving desire in my heart that she would make it. It was just really pure, and it was full of love, and it was full of hope for her future life. The next morning we got called at just before 5 a.m, Mountain Time, and was told that Layla didn't make it. And at that moment, I have felt something like I had not felt since I was a child, and I'd have temper tantrums and just become furious. I'm going to also read in my journal to you what I wrote about that experience. So I say early in the morning, April 9th, just before 6 a.m. No, it must have been
5.
Must before 5. We received notification that she had passed away. It was heartbreak. I was heartbroken. But more than anything, I became filled with an intense anger that turned into a fit and rage. I tried to get it off of my chest by praying to Heavenly Father, but words did not make it much farther than my lips, and the hurt continued to intensify. I don't know if any of you have prayed, and when you pray, it doesn't feel like your words even make it out of the room. They just are right there. I remember that so I just had this intensity building inside of me, and I wondered a little bit why I was just so mad and so angry and so let down that this benevolent thought that I had had the night before, and these prayers that I'd offered, and I knew that thousands of people were praying, and we didn't get the miracle that we hoped for with Lily in terms of her living. We had a dog that was paralyzed over the last couple of years, and we didn't get the miracle that we had hoped for in that. And so I think in my heart I was just kind of, all right, Heavenly Father, at least give us one miracle, at least help something happen that would be just miraculous. And I felt like that would happen within Layla, and it didn't. And that hurt, and I just felt betrayed. I felt this very intense anger, and I was furious. I was totally furious. Stacy can tell you. So I had the thought, and I had remembered that as a child, when I would get furious and anger, my mom would often comfort me. So I called my parents, and I called my parents at 4:44 a.m., and poured out my frustrated, angry, hurt, and disappointed heart to them. And for about an hour and a half, I yelled, I screamed, it was it was interesting, even in those moments, I was even doubting things that I know are absolutely certain for sure. And I started going through my life of all these good things, and that anger started to tear them apart. Blessings that I've had, things that have happened that absolutely were not choreographed by me, but by a divine choreographer, things that were totally miraculous. I started to deconstruct those in my mind. I started to doubt all of those. I started to say that none of those were actually miracles. None of those things were actually God's intervention or the hand in my life. And I started to just dive into this very dark and very yucky place. And I literally, I even felt like, I don't know if this makes sense, but I felt like leaving the church, leaving everything, leaving Stacy, leaving everything that was good, I wanted to repulse and I wanted to get rid of.
Can you guys see us and hear us? On our end it says having trouble playing this video.
That's just us commenting.
Yeah. Keep going. You do.
Okay.
What does it say?
They just said that I can hear you and see you. All right. Well,
Okay.
I will carry on. Anyways, it was just a very dark and a very yucky place going on, and I called my parents like a little child. Even at 42 years old, I called my parents and I just poured my heart out to them and expressed all of this that I was feeling, and expressed all these feelings that were tearing me apart. And I write in my journal, I said, they lovingly and patiently listened and counseled me. I felt infinitely relieved after visiting with them. They acted as ministering angels to me in my time of great need. And this was the thing that really was powerful for me. I learned in those 2 hours of deep turbulence that if I choose to ignore all of the witnesses, or in other words, all the good that has been brought into my life, and allow anger and hurt to be my focus, I will destroy all that is of value to me in my life. And it was kind of an odd experience because I can have a very bad temper at times, and hopefully Stacy in 18 years hasn't seen it too often, and I try and control that. But it was I think it was important for me to feel that, one, to recognize that that was a potential place for me to go. It was appropriate for me to be there because it gives me some empathy for people that feel that anger, which I hadn't really recalled back to. I remember being really angry when my brother Jess died when I was in 9th grade. I was really angry at God. And I just saw in those 2 hours where my life could be or would be if I chose to let that anger and that blackness and that blame or that denial to take full place in my heart. And I'm so grateful that it was only for a brief moment, and I know that for others it probably stays for a long time. The thing that I came away from that knowing, though, is for me personally, I would destroy my own life, and my own self and everything of value would be destroyed if I let that anger hang in my heart. So I'm very grateful that my parents, one, listened to me, and that Heavenly Father in His wisdom helped carry me through that burden. And it doesn't take the hurt away. I still hurt. I still bawled my eyes out for Josh and Shannon. I still hurt and miss Lily. I miss my oldest brother Jess so many times. But that anger, like many of these phases of grief, it's okay to have it. It's okay to feel it. But it's in our best interest to not stay there long. We need to look for opportunities and look forward to that phase passing. And if it's not passing, we need to then start looking outside of ourselves and looking for opportunities to do, well, in our language, to see good, to do good, and to share good. And I know that that is a recipe for happiness, and it's a recipe for healing anybody. When we are able to open our eyes and see differently, we act differently. And when we act differently, we get to share a better version of ourselves. We get to share more good with the world. And I know that that cycle continues. When we are a better person and can share better, we then see better, and then we do more, and we continue that cycle to go. So,
and I remember one story that was told about a lady who had cancer, and she had maybe 2 days a month that she could actually do something, like rather than just be in bed because she was in so much pain. And she started to feel like really sorry for herself, like anyone would. And then her husband said to her, "Okay, we better go serve someone." And that story, I think it was told within the first year that Lily passed away. That really hit me. She said, how can someone almost dead serve someone? Like, she felt like she was half dead. How can I go serve someone? But she, on the good days that she had, their family, they went and did something for someone that she could do, and then from her bed, I think she did family history or something. But I thought, wow, for someone to probably be hurting and grieving inside because of the loss of her health
and anger
because she's in bed all the time, but for her to actually go and do that, that's amazing. And that really touched me, and I know that helped me see my hard days in a different light.
And just before you read that, one of the things I think is powerful about that, and powerful what I just shared, is it involved other people. I found people that would listen to me in my anger, and it allowed me to get that off of my chest. And that was what I needed. And getting that outside of us, I think, is one of the best ways to get through any of these stages of grief. And service, as Stacy is talking about, is involving other people. It allows us to get it outside of our heart and out.
Mm-hmm. And I just wrote down here, and as I think Shannon has told everyone about how when she felt guilty, I was there, and that day her bedroom's kind of in the far corner of the upstairs, and I was getting Grace ready for the day, and I just had a feeling go in and see how Shannon's doing. And so I did, and I knocked on the door, and she said, "Come in," and she was in bed, and I just asked how she was doing, and she wasn't good, and she said she was just so angry, and she's like, "I know I shouldn't feel this way, and I'm terrible for feeling this way." And I looked at her and I said, "No, you're not. And Jesus Christ has already borne your pain. He's already gone through what you're feeling. He knows how it feels, and he's ready for you. If you want to shout at him, if you want to be angry at him, he's ready for you. And it's okay. He understands." And as she said, that gave her, and we held hands, and we cried together. And it brought me back those feelings of, I'm sorry, I'm a blubbering mess. I was just so glad that I could be there for her, but I don't know exactly how she feels, but I know how bad it hurts to lose someone or to go. And so for me to be able to hold her hand while she just cried and kind of, didn't scream, but just kind of got the out. I'm just thankful that I could be there for her and just help her see that, and just tell her that God is there. Even when you're yelling at him, even when you're mad, his hand is stretching out for you. And he understands. And so it's okay. We don't need to feel guilty for feeling angry or feel like I did. I felt angry for feeling angry, and I guess you just need to feel all the feels and process them and go through them. But as Josh said, it's okay to feel that and be there, but don't be there for too long. And with the service goes, like I've said, gratitude is magic. It really is. As you look around, and during this whole COVID thing, it was a hard adjustment at first, just to try to get school done with your kids and try to figure it out. The teachers are trying to figure things out, and I just had a thought, just look for something every day that you're grateful for. And one day I looked out the window and my kids were all jumping on the trampoline and they were just laughing, and I thought, that's my little miracle. That's my gratitude today. Thankful for my children laughing on the tram, and that seems so little, but it's huge. Because as you look for those little things, even if it's, oh, I can stand up today. Because when I was in the hospital and I could stand up, that was huge for me. And then the next day, when I could actually walk around the little wing of the hospital, that day I was supposed to be doing a mini triathlon. And I joked about, well, this is my mini triathlon. But I was grateful for that day. And as we're grateful for little things, your heart will swell, and you'll be comforted. Even if it's the tiniest little bit of comfort, you'll see that miracle, and as you keep doing that, you'll be comforted.
Well, I think that through that's what allows any of these phases of grief, that anger will just dissolve. And I think of the anger that we see right now in the world and in our nation particularly at this time. It's okay to be angry. It's okay for us to have a tremendous amount of sorrow and disgust for what we've seen on TV. But when we turn and we act in anger, you're only going to cause more problems.
More
you're
anger.
only going to...
More anger.
Martin Luther King, I think many people have probably seen these quotes right now. You can't address anger with more anger. You can't address hate with more hate. You can't address all these things. The only answer to that is that you have to address it with the things that Stacy's talked about, with gratitude, with love, with service, with tenderness, with understanding, with trying to be empathetic and help. Service is absolute magic. You cannot not love the people that you genuinely serve. When you genuinely serve others, you will fall in love with those people that you serve. And it might take time, and it might be hard, but there are ways out of that anger. So I think that's what we should finish on today.
And I just wanted to say, revisiting that, and I think grief, as we all know, in any sort of way, it is work. It takes work, and it's draining to actually go through it. But as we do, we become stronger and better people.
And one of the blessings and I mentioned just a little bit, when you are hurt in your life, it sucks. But being hurt allows you to help the people that you then come across in life who also are hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't experienced it, exactly, that's okay. If you've hurt, you've hurt. Hurt is universal.
Uh-huh.
And
no matter what it is.
And it puts you in a position in your heart where your heart is bigger, it's more capable, and you have more genuineness in your ability to help lift those that hurt, because you know what it's like to hurt, and that's a gift. Some of us struggle, and I say that particularly with me, having as much empathy as I want. And so I consider those gifts to know how I can help a little bit better way.
And I think I just want to, did you want to say one more thing?
Well, we need to wrap up here.
So to wrap up, I just wanted everyone, if you'll take this challenge, to every day this week look for something that you're grateful for and write it down, and just see how that can change your day. And if you're really going through a really hard time and it's hard to see anything that you're grateful for, it can be as simple as the home that you live in, or
So I'm going to just add to that invitation specifically. Look for the good. Every day, try and see good. And when you see good, I want you to pay attention to how you feel and see if you feel more inclined to do good when you see good.
And I, before Lily passed away, she did really good. She had really nice calligraphy writing, and so I had a chalkboard, and I wanted her to write a quote down that I came across, and we still have it on our chalkboard, and it says, "You find what you look for the good," and it's so true, and it has been such a reminder for me, even though troubling times are around you. Say there's a storm, you feel like I said, you're going to be crushed. If you look for the good, it's there.
So next week, Josh and Shannon Nielsen will be hosting the next, and they're going to be talking about bargaining as one of the stages or the faces of grief. So thank you for your time tonight. And if any of you who are listening, or you know of anybody that needs to talk about their anger, we are available, and we would love to be in touch with them, or we certainly invite you to reach out to them yourselves. And anyways, try and be a listening ear for them. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. That was a blubbery mess.
Okay. Somebody was blessed to hear what you had to say. So I'm just curious to know, it was 40 minutes. I have no idea if... Oh, we're still on.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Oh, blubbering mess.
No.